Hello everybody, I'm Diane Mulligan, a teacher, writer, and artist from Central Massachusetts, and this is my first artist vlog. So I'm taking a little break from my Creative Coffee Break series to give you a glimpse into what's been happening in my studio. And the work I've been doing is pretty far opposite of Creative Coffee Breaks. So my Creative Coffee Break series were art projects you could do entirely in 30 minutes or less. But what I've actually been working on when I'm not in a rush are some projects that take a little bit more time, including the reduction print that I'm working on right now in this video. In case you're unfamiliar, a reduction print is a printmaking process where you create the layers of the print one layer at a time. And basically the first thing you do is carve away anything that you want to be the white of the page, and then you print your next lightest color, which is what I'm doing here. And after you print that light color, you're going to carve more into the block, and therefore you're going to actually destroy the block. So you have to make as many of that initial print as you want for the total print run you're going to make, because once you carve more into the block, you can never print that first layer again. It's a little bit of a scary process. It was brand new to me. I'm a beginner at printmaking, and I've just gotten started doing some prints, and I really wanted to try a reduction print. I needed a few days off from work in order to do this because it's a long process. So in case you don't know, I'm not a full-time artist or writer. I am a high school English teacher. But I had a few days off from Thanksgiving, and I wasn't hosting Thanksgiving this year, so that gave me some time to make some art that takes more time. The reason a reduction print takes so much time: you have to design the print, you have to carve the block, you have to run that first edition and then let them dry fully, which takes a day or two. Then you have to carve the block more, and you have to run the next layer, and so on. So it's a pretty long process. And it's quite unlike my process when I'm making watercolors, where there's minimal setup, minimal cleanup, and you just jump right in. But this print was so fun to make, a little landscape just to explore the techniques. And I ended up with an edition of about 8 that I feel happy with from the total print run. As you can see in this little behind the scenes glimpse here, my home studio is very small, and it gets really messy when I'm doing these big projects. My second project is a portrait of my sweet dog Amelia, who recently crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and she's snoozing up there in heaven now and swimming in the big sea in the sky and all that good stuff. But I really miss her, and decided I would make a painting to remember her by. And the inspiration for the painting was a sketch I did from life last year when she was snoozing in her old age. She became a great model for me to sketch because she slept so much. And I had done this little sketch of her sleeping that I felt like really captured her. So I'm tracing the sketch here because I I decided I was going to, instead of painting this on regular watercolor paper, that I was going to paint it on a wood panel that I prepared with some antique sheet music. So I've really been enjoying doing collage and painting on antique sheet music that I picked up at a thrift shop. And as I was thumbing through the sheet music one day, I found a song called Pretty Puppy. And of course that made me think of my Amelia. I don't use tracing paper a lot in my normal processes, but I know that when I prepare a panel or a canvas for watercolor using watercolor ground, that I'm creating a surface I can't easily erase pencil off of, although funnily enough, watercolor lifts off of it really easily. But I knew I wasn't going to want to have a lot of like drawing marks. I just wanted the drawing to be right. And also, I was so happy with the sketch I did of Amelia from life. I don't like to work from photographs if I can help it, and my drawings of everyone and everything are always better when they're straight from observation. So I knew the sketch I had done in my sketchbook really captured her and just felt really true. So even though I don't usually trace, I felt pretty okay tracing this time. You can see here I'm tracing with different colored pencils. So I did the initial trace with a red pencil, then I flipped the paper over and used a really soft lead, a 6B lead, to retrace it. And now I flipped it back over and I'm using a purple pencil to make the impression onto my sketchbook. And what I'm actually doing here is a practice. I tend to be a fairly realistic painter, but for this one, I wanted to amp up the colors a little bit. So before going onto the panel, I thought I would have a little play. The other thing, you can see here I'm using a dip pen and ink, is that when you're working on watercolor, using watercolor ground on a surface that's not traditional like a canvas or wood panel, watercolor lifts really easily off those surfaces. So I decided what I would do is use ink for the dark areas, and the ink will dry permanent, and then I can put the watercolor on top. So here I'm just doing a sketchbook practice to just try the techniques and see how it'll work. The ink I'm using here is a Takesumi ink by Pilot. It's a Japanese fountain pen ink. And this is ink that is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be water resistant. So in other words, it will reactivate with water even after it's dried, or it's supposed to. My experience using this, I have used this on other wood panels prepped with watercolor ground. And my experience on those was, once it dried, it was pretty permanent. So I really love the colors it breaks into when you move it around with the water. And I was hoping that when I came to my panel, it would dry permanent. Here you can see what it looked like after I finished the ink layer and let that dry. And then I needed to have a little play with some colors. So I had some colors in mind, and I'm just testing them out on my paper here to see how they mix and blend. I knew that for the warm areas of her, I needed something orangey. And that first one I put down was quinacridone orange, and I think some moon glow, some phthalo blue. But I knew that I needed that orange, and I wanted to play off that with some blues and purples for the darker parts of her. Instead of trying to be like strictly literal, I wanted to amplify the colors a little bit and have some fun with it. I'm still staying pretty close to reality. I am not somebody who's great at going wild and crazy with color. But but I just want to give it a little something extra. So I'm also playing around here with some Schminky ultra granulating paints to just see if I can find the right blues and purples that, you know, once I've tested everything out and I know the colors are going to look nice, then I'll be able to go to the actual painting on the wood panel and feel more confident. Once I settled on the colors I was going to use, I just set the swatches here on the bottom to remind me, and I was using a few Schminky colors, including Tundra Violet, Tundra Orange, and Tundra Rose, and from Daniel Smith I'm using Phthalo Blue and Quinacridone Pink. So those were the colors I ended up determining played really nicely together. They gave the feeling that I want. The quinacridone pink I'm only actually using for her little tongue and the pad of her one paw that's showing. And then everything else is how I'm going to render her fur and the shadows on her fur. And my practice sketch is a little rough and ready, but it was enough to show me that I like how these colors show up. So it's time to finish prepping my panel, and you can see here I have some Daniel Smith watercolor ground. I had actually already put a layer on the day before. So working this way with watercolor requires a lot of preparation. The first day I gessoed the panel, and then I used Mod Podge to mount that antique sheet music to the panel. Once that had dried overnight with a book on top of it to be nice and flat, I put my first layer of watercolor ground, which is going down looking like it's a little bit opaque, but actually it dries. This one is transparent. It dries very clear. So I had done the first coat, and you really have to let the watercolor ground cure. So I let that first coat cure for 24 hours. Then I put on this second coat, which then also had to cure for 24 hours. And then finally the next day I would be able to come back and transfer my sketch and get to work. So again, this isn't how I work all the time because it's an awful lot of preparation. It certainly makes sense if you want to work with watercolor on unusual substrates to prepare a bunch of them at once, because that's going to save you time in the long run. But for this project, it just felt right. And if you want to learn more about working with watercolor on these, on canvas, on wood panels, unusual surfaces, you should go visit the YouTube channel of Liz Chatterton, because she is the master of that, and I will put a link to her in the description box below. I absolutely love her work. While that watercolor ground is drying, I thought I would take the opportunity to do a little sketchbook tour here and show you some of my other sketches that I did of Miss Amelia. Over the past year, as I said, in her old age, she became a really good little model. It's the one we're using for today's inspiration. I guess I'm cheating because her eyes are closed, but I also have done a few where she is sitting up, looking alive, begging for treats in both cases, actually. She's sitting there begging. All right, and here you can see how it looked once I put the ink. I didn't film this since you just saw me do that process. And once I put the watercolor on, I did have to add some gouache on her tail and paws because those needed to show up white. But in the end, I was so happy with this lovely little tribute to my pup. All right, well that's it. That's a look inside what I get up to when I have 4 days off from work for a holiday. I spend quite a lot of those free hours here in my tiny studio making art and getting stuck into those projects that otherwise I just don't have time for during the normal flow of my work week. So I'll be back probably next week with my final installment of Creative Coffee Break, which again is a 30-minute art project, so not something nearly as involved as what I showed you here. But I hope you enjoyed these videos, and I hope you stay creative, friends.